Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Produce Buzzers podcast. We are so happy you have joined us today, and I think you will be too after the show is over, because you will learn a lot about fresh fruits and vegetables, how to select and store them, how to prepare and cook them, and surprising facts about their history and origin. We hope it inspires you to eat more fresh fruits and vegetables, not only for your health, but also for your delight and pleasure as you explore their amazing world of taste and delicious flavors. Eating more of them will transform your life in so many positive ways. So settle back, relax, and get ready for another delicious adventure with the Produce Buzzers. Greetings, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, and welcome to another delicious episode of the Produce Buzzers podcast. I'm Edwin Stepp, your host and executive editor of ProduceBuzz.com. I'm joined once again by Teresa Nolan, the founder and president of Produce Buzz, along with Rick Stepp and Cynthia Benedetto, both contributing editors to Produce Buzz. Now, today, Produce Buzzers podcast fans, we have another fascinating guest on the show this week. Our guest has spent his career at one of the largest and premier fruit growers in the nation. Today, we have Mac Riggan, the director of marketing for Chelan Fresh and the Joyfully Grown brand. Chelan Fresh is a shipper of apples, pears, and cherries owned by the farmers who grow the fruit. Their farms are family-owned, many of which are now being led by the fourth and even fifth generation of those families. Sons and daughters who have followed in the footsteps of their parents and grandparents, and in some cases, great and great-great-grandparents. Growing fruit and growing it well is just in their genes. Chelan is located in the foothills of the Cascade Mountain range in central Washington state. Here, ideal fruit growing conditions come together. Gentle mountain slopes, fertile valleys, clear rivers, and warm sunny days and cool, crisp evening nights. Those ideal conditions have made Washington state the largest apple and pear growing state in the nation. And while Michigan technically grows more cherries in total volume, those cherries are used primarily for canning and cooking. But when it comes to those delicious sweet cherries you love to eat fresh, Washington is also the leading grower of those. As apple and pear season is just about to start, we are delighted to have Mac on the show today to tell us about the delicious fruit that Chelan Fresh grows. Mac, welcome to the show, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thank you. So I'll just correct you on two things. No big deal. Okay. It's pronounced Chelan, but we've been Chelan. We've been called Chelan, which I like Chelan. That kind of has a nice smooth to it, but it's actually pronounced as if you spelled it S-H-E-L-A-N. Chelan. Okay,
great. Thank you for that.
From an old Indian name, Silan. It was Lake Silan, spelled T-S-I-L-L-A-N. There's a fairly substantial winery right in the Chelan area that's called Chelan Cellars. So it's got a neat history there, the name.
Yeah, that's fantastic. I wondered about that. It did sound Indian to me. And a lot of those names in that region are Wenatchee, I think, has got to be
Yakima.
Right. So that area is really interesting. Well,
and we're actually also into our sixth generation of family members. So
wow!
And I can speak more about that later.
But we want to hear about that. That's something that our listeners really love to hear about. And I think one of the things we've talked about on this show is that it's a lot of people think agriculture has gone completely to big business, big commercial organizations and corporations. But in the reality, the fruit and vegetable business, especially, there's a lot of family-owned small farms that they come together under a label or a brand sometimes. But for the most part, I think they're small farms, and this is something really good to hear. So I do want to hear more about that. But before we get to Chelan and what you do there, I want to know about Mac. Tell us about your background. How did you get into the fruit business? And did you grow up in it?
Yeah, so on my cousin's side, so we're related. The Gebbers family and the Riggan family are related because my dad's oldest sister married Danny Gebber. So we're first cousins. We're all first cousins and we're related. the original pioneer came out, grandfather came out from Nova Scotia. He hiked clear across the top of Canada in 1889.
Hiked.
Yeah. So think about the movie The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio. I mean, you don't just pull over and have dinner, stay the night. You're like fighting and clawing and trying to find food the whole way over.
Sleeping in a bear carcass.
Yeah, and I never.
No,
really
it was a horse carcass.
Yeah.
I've never really nailed down a story of why he even started the trek, but he started in Nova Scotia, so it's a long ways over by foot. And he, for whatever reason, landed in Brewster, Washington, and in 1889 he planted the first apple tree there.
Really?
So that's where it all got started.
Was that the first apple tree in Washington or just in that area?
I don't know if it was in Washington, but it was the first one in that whole region.
Okay.
Yeah, which is a large growing region. So,
and that, can you remind me how many greats is that back? Great.
Pardon me?
How many?
Well, it's 6 generations.
6 generations. Wow.
Yeah.
So, wow.
Yeah,
that's fantastic.
So then our family, we just pretty much grew up in the lumber business, cattle, and farming. And the farming really took off probably in the late 50s. So my uncle Danny Gebers, he was the first grower to bring Granny Smith apples into the United States in 1968. So he brought those
from where?
From Australia.
New Zealand. From Australia. Okay.
Yeah, it was either Australia or France. Actually, it might have been France. He would go over there and look at different apple varieties, and so he was a real pioneer. That he never was static with anything. He was just always looking ways to upgrade his organization and his farms, and he was very cutting edge like that. Yeah. So anyway, our family I grew up working in the cherry orchards from age 6 and 7 years old, getting up like 5 a.m. with my brother and changing sprinklers. And back then, we didn't have the sprinklers like they do now, where everything's in the ground. They were aluminum tubes that were about 25 feet long. They weighed about as much as I did. And we would unhook them and walk them over 2 rows in the orchard, walk them all over, then rehook them up, and then turn the water on and check to make sure the sprinkler. We had to do that twice a day, 5 in the morning and 5 at night. And I remember when we were on the hillside, this is an interesting story. So we'd be on some pretty steep hillsides, and you'd be moving the pipes down the hillside, and the orchard might be 200-300 yards long. At the end of the hillside, you'd have to haul, instead of going just back up one at a time, because the top trees hadn't been watered for 2 weeks, we would have to haul those sprinkler lines all the way back. And I remember my brother and I would calculate, is that going to be on a morning that we have to do that, or is that going to be in an afternoon? Because we'd have to get to school, and if it was a morning deal and you had to haul all those lines back up the hill, we worked so hard as kids. We had no idea. That's just what we did.
Yeah.
So then I got out of high school, and I went on to college over in Seattle, and I got a degree over there. But I didn't. How
far is Seattle from where your farm is?
2.5 hours, 3 hours. Yeah. And so I thought I was going to leave the farming business because all you really knew as a kid was the hard work from it. And so I thought, well, I'll get a job in the office. So anyway, after about 5 years over there, I stayed a couple more years because my little sister went to school there, and I promised my dad I would stay with her for 2 years. So after that, I came home to the family business and started in the sales office. And then that was in 1990. In 2004, we merged with all of our families up north. So all the packing, shipping, sales, marketing, and growing operations came together under a company called Alta Fresh in 2003. And then we merged with Chelan Fruit in 2004 and became Chelan Fresh.
Okay. Were all those families related, or?
We are with the Gebers. The Chelan Fruit people were not related. Okay. They got to be like family, though. Wonderful people. Right. A lot of small growers, families, a lot of heritage and legacy there. So it was a really good mix. And then in 2015, the Borton family, who is literally just like us, but 2 hours south, we decided to merge with them, and they came on board. And they're just another grower shipper member under the Chelan Fresh umbrella. And that's been an amazing merger and partnership.
Yeah. great. And increase your volume quite a bit, I imagine.
Yeah, because mergers aren't always easy, but
No.
we're blessed. We're all faith-based people. When your whole livelihood's based on things out of your control, you decide it's either going to be up to you or the Lord, and we put the Lord at the driver's head. And so when that all comes together, we're all about. We have an old saying here. My Uncle Danny really taught me a lot of things as a kid. My dad taught me a lot of things about being genuine and transparent. My dad would always say, it's really important that you understand having to have the desire every day to honor the legacy that your grandfather and me have left you kids. And then you need to work every day to preserve it for the ones coming after you.
Wow.
So when you have that mindset, you have 100-year mindset, you don't worry about what your title is or your role. You just get up every day and do the best you can for the family, and things work out really well for people that do that. And so that's when the Bortons came on board, they're the same, they think the same way.
Yeah.
And so they weren't really worried about who got what. They just wanted to be part of a bigger program that would be more influential and do better things. And it's really flourished.
Yeah. That's really refreshing to hear. Communities working together without strife, and the young people following in the footsteps of previous generations to do something special. That's unusual in this world because a lot of young people want to run away from their past. They want to rebel. They want to go out in the world and make their own mark. Why do you think that was different for the families there that are involved with Chelan?
I don't know. It's really weird because my brother and I are very, very close. I mean, I'm just amazed at how good the relationship is with my younger brother. We're a year and a half apart. He's our CEO. We're best friends. And my cousin, Cass Gebbers, who's the CEO of Gebbers Farms, he's literally a brother to me. We're a month apart in age, and I've grown up with him since I was 5.
Yep.
So I don't know. It's funny. I've been doing this a long time. I've never had a boring day. My frustration is that everybody's done working at 4 and I got to shut down. And it's like, man, I need like 4 more hours. It's like having a hobby every day and everybody goes home and then you got to wait. And I've told people it's a weird thing to say, but this is true. My favorite day of the week is Monday.
Wow.
Ah.
That's really.
And I've told my kids, if you can get to where the favorite day of the week is Monday for you, you're going to have a good career. Whatever you're doing, you're going to be happy at and probably good at it.
Yeah, that's inspiring. And
yeah, my girlfriend's husband goes Monday, the weekend, but I don't think for the exact same reason.
Well, that's great. Well, that's fascinating. Well, let's turn to Chelan. I'm going to get it right eventually. Sorry. And what you grow. Now, I mentioned apples, pears, and cherries. Is that it, or are there some other fruits that you mix in there? That's it. Okay. And so you've already told us how about the time it got started and when you all merged together. What varieties of apples do you grow now? What are some of your best-selling varieties?
One of my favorites.
We grow all the typical ones, like you start with Reds, Goldens, Grannies, Gala, Fuji, Jonagold, Brayburn. And then we have our proprietary varieties like the Koru, the Rocket Apple, which is the small one we sell in the tub, the Sugar Bee.
The Sugar Bee is the best.
Yeah, we think
I love that.
Yeah.
What's the bricks on that? I
don't know, but it's high. It's very, very, we actually have people call me and ask me if we inject sugar into the apples. Some of the questions I get, they're precious, right?
Yeah.
But and then we have a Red Flesh series of apple under the Lucy banner. And we have a Lucy Rose, Lucy Glow, and a new one coming out this fall called Lucy Bell.
Okay. Excellent. Yeah. I was privileged to taste that Lucy at one of the produce marketing conventions.
Was that when we were in Florida?
Well, this was the first time I tasted it was in Anaheim in probably 2018 or 19. I can't remember. You weren't there with me then, Cynthia. But
so the other apple we grow that's really a fan favorite, but it's not exclusive to anybody except kind of Washington, is the Cosmic Crisp.
Oh,
and
okay.
It's actually one of my favorite apples.
Yeah,
that's a really good apple.
Very good.
Yeah.
Very
Why
good.
do you like it?
I like tart apples, so I like Pink Lady. Oh, we grow Pink Lady too. I like Pink Lady, Granny Smith. I like sugar bees when they're a little early off the tree. I like them a little starchy. That's just the way I am.
Yeah, I agree with you on that.
I like lemonade. I just like lime juice.
I like lemonade too when it's got nicely sugared. So I'm like the sugar fiend of this group. Everybody else is normal but me.
She's got a switch.
And then on the pears, we grow all kinds of pears, red pears. We grow Angel pears, Boss, Concord, Bartlett. And then on cherries, we grow a lot of Rainier cherries. We have an exclusive variety called the Arondo Ruby, which tastes like a kind of a Bing cherry and a Rainier cherry in your mouth at the same time. So it has very high sugars, but also high acids. And so it has a really complex flavor. It's a real fan favorite. We don't grow very many of them. They're very challenging to grow. But we have people that buy those.
Can you say the name of that again?
Arondo Ruby.
Arondo Ruby. Wow. Do you have a lot of volume on those? Because I don't think I've seen them in the stores.
No, we sold a lot of them into Sprouts Farmers Market this year, and I think it was like 5,000 boxes.
Yeah. Are you planning to increase it? I want to see some.
Why are they so much more difficult to grow than the Rainier?
They don't produce heavy per tree, and so it's all about production per tree. So every time you run a tractor down there or spray it or mow it, and if you're going by 5,000 cherries per tree versus 500 cherries per tree,
right?
All your costs are the same. So your costs go up per cherry.
At one time, it seemed like every time cherry season would roll around, it would rain. And the retailers would be like, oh, no, we're not going to have any cherries because it rains, I see so much more volume on cherries now. And is that still an issue?
Very much so. So we've learned to mitigate rain damage. And there's two things we do. So we just had Sprouts out last night, actually. We had dinner with them. And so this is all fresh in my mind. But we have made the investment into, I think we have 15 Sikorsky helicopters.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And we have a pilot fleet and whole management of that. And so we use those when it rains to blow the trees off and to blow the water out of where the stem meets the cherry, and it keeps them from splitting.
That is amazing.
Oh, that's the problem.
And they just hover over those trees, and it dries them.
Yeah, well, it blows out the water, and then the trees will dry out soon after that.
Wow.
So if we know it's going to rain, we cut the water off to the orchard, so we try to dry it out a little bit. The rain hits, we blow it off. We'll use tractors with blowers mounted on the back of the tractors to blow some of that too.
Yeah.
So
now,
I can't imagine how much those helicopters must cost.
Yeah, how many do you have?
15.
Oh, wow.
And we don't farm them out either. We don't joyride them. I mean, we just there's some summers like this year, we didn't even use them.
So and you have 15 pilots? Or you have 15 pilots?
Yeah.
Military, ex-military
Some are
guys?
military, some are just civilian.
So this year, the Rainiers have been out of this world. And I live the opposite end of the contiguous United States that you do, catty corner. But and usually, they're good. They're but they were unbelievable. Is that because everyone got proper amounts of water, or what's any?
So one of the major contributors to the quality of a crop is what happens in what I call April, in the bloom period. It's very important that during the bloom period, you have good warm days, not too hot, not too cold, not a lot of rain. So this year we had wonderful bloom period. So the trees set a nice crop of fruit. They weren't underloaded and they weren't overloaded, especially on the Rainiers. And so there was a very nice crop load on the Rainiers. The temperatures, the first month, the cherries usually take 65 days from bloom to harvest. The first 30 days, there were just really nice temperatures. Cool nights, warm days, and the cherries just developed into literally a perfect eating experience.
They were unbelievable. What so you guys, where are you on your rainfall? Are you above normal sorry, I don't know.
The rain here is funny because when we get rain here, we don't get it for like 2 days. We get it 45 minutes. So it'll be like hot all day. And then at 3 o'clock, there'll be a rainstorm. And that's what makes the cherries want to split. They're warm. They get this infusion of water and they just want to burst. And that's why you got to get them dried off. So I was thinking this year, I don't even remember the last time it rained since February. So there's been rain events around, but there hasn't been like any statewide rain over here. We're in the high desert. It's very dry where we are, very low humidity.
Okay.
Yeah, we're the complete opposite of Seattle. We're literally like Arizona with a massive river, the Columbia River running right through the middle of the state. So it provides just unlimited amounts of irrigation water.
Oh, that's
so we don't use rain to grow any crops here.
That's beautiful.
Okay.
Yeah. So if it stops raining, sorry, one more question about rain. So if it rains at 0200 and then it stops, at 0300, do you get the helicopters out right away, or does it?
Yeah, they'll be out during the rain.
Oh, during the rain.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well,
interesting.
you mentioned that region, and one of the questions I had is why? What about the climate there makes it such a great region for growing these fruits?
Yeah, so there's some very unique things. So in 1980, I remember standing and for whatever reason, I was outside my parents' home. I was 16 and it was a Sunday morning and I just heard this massive thundering boom coming from the west towards Seattle. What that was Mount St. Helens erupting. I had no idea at the time.
Right.
And so when we talk years and years about how the volcanic ash has made this such great, we actually experienced it. I mean, Yakima got covered in it.
Yeah.
So what has happened over thousands and thousands of years, we actually witnessed in 1980. And so the whole area up here got a nice fresh dose of mineral infused ash that just blends into the soil. Yeah. So that's something that makes our soil really rich and fertile. We have lots of sunshine. We have a lot of sloping land, which gets good air drainage. It's very dry here. So it's good for growing organic because you don't have to fight mildew and funguses from high humidity. That's why you don't see much growing in the east because they have a lot of humidity. And then we have very cold winters, very cold, dry winters, which knock the pest population down anyway. So those are all things that contribute to making this an ideal place to grow organic product and conventional all alike.
Yeah. Wow. It's a beautiful region. I've been able to travel through there a few times, not spend a lot of time there. This is off the mark, but I just was thinking about soil and climate for wine. Are you into the wine business at all?
No, our family, we don't grow any wine. There's a lot of wine business up here now.
Yeah,
a lot of orchards and area of them have transferred over to it.
Yeah, some great wines come out of there. I've had some really good ones. That soil and everything helps that. So yeah. Well, I want to know about this great new, I don't know how new it is. It's new to me. I think I just really came across it in the last couple of years, but this brand, Joyfully Grown. I love that name. Tell us the inspiration behind that and what's the deeper meaning of it.
So the thing that drove it really is one of our partners that had the label we were using was leaving. They got bought out by another entity. So our partnership with them ended. It was on good terms, but it's kind of like you got divorced and the guy took his last name with him. So the lady needs to get a new last name, right? So she either takes back her original name or
nicely done. That's
kind of how it is, right? So we had to come up with a new label and we were thinking, well, do we just want to be Chelan Fresh label and we got to thinking, what do we really do? Why do we do what we do? Not what do we do? We were thinking, why do we do it? Why do we put up with all the challenges and the turmoil and all that? And, part of it is because we're here and we're family, but you could do other things with the land, right? You could sell it out to a private equity deal. And we've had that opportunity. But then what do you do with all your family members, right? We have 45 kids working in the business.
Wow.
And so if you do all that, you just have a whole bunch of trust fund babies and we end up like the Rockefellers and the Vanderbilts, right? Just a bunch of alcoholic drug kids with no purpose. So we decided not to go that route. But we thought, let's really boil down why we do what we do. And it's because it brings us a lot of delight. a lot of joy. I used to say for years, our job is to surprise and delight the consumer through the retailer. We can't expect the retailer to make our product any better than it is when he gets it. So we really need to be focused on the consumer. So yeah, we love to please the retailer by giving them good fruit that they can pass on to the consumer. But at the end of the day, you're really speaking and communicating with that consumer. And I get the joy and the curse of getting all the good stuff people say about us and all the problems that I'm the tip of the spear for that. Yeah. So I get to see all that. So I was, we were just working with another group that came up with just like, what do we do? Try something like joyful. Like we went down this joyful path and we started interviewing all the family members about what they do that brings them joy. And the stories were just insane. I mean, we were like, wow, we're a close-knit family, but nobody had ever sat down and grabbed everybody's heart and mind about why they do, why they're committed to the family, why they revere the legacy that's been left for them so much, why they work so hard to preserve it. And that all came out in the joy that they get every day from not just the fun of the business, but actually the challenges. My uncle used to say, all I need to solve a family argument is have an alien ship come down and threaten to whip all your butts. You'll get together real quick, right? So every time there's a challenge outside the company, we come together real quick and real solid, and we're a mighty force because we love each other and we care about each other. And so that joyfully grown theme came out, and it's been amazing, the response from consumers, from retailers. It kind of came out at a point, you guys, I don't want to get political, but the world's a challenging place, and there's a lot of mental health things. There's a lot of people feel siloed. And, one of the big things that we sponsor is this program called Only 7 Seconds. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's a program that addresses isolation of kids, suicide, and all that. And the bottom line is it only takes 7 seconds to reach out to someone who might be hurting. Wow. So that's a big thing for our family.
Excellent.
Down that road. And so the Joyfully Grown it was really easy for our family to embrace it and to just talk about it. So we just have a myriad of videos of kids, from some of our youngest kids, 18, 19, up to my cousin, Matt Gebers, my namesake, and he's 62, and he talks about what brings him joy. And that whole process of hearing why people got up early every day and slogged through what we do really galvanized us. It was amazing. We all kind of looked at each other like, oh, I didn't know you felt that way. And I feel a lot the same way too. And it's just been an amazing galvanizing experience for us.
That's fantastic.
And I think that, when you go meet a retailer and you start telling that story, it's hard not to let all that just come through you. And they listen to that and go, wow, you guys, that is really transparent. Because the only thing my dad and my uncle have really demanded of us is that we never lie, we never surprise people, and that we're transparent and genuine.
Yeah.
And they said, that's what we expect of you kids as our legacy. We're not asking for a certain size of growth in the company or profitability or innovation. Just be what the Lord called you to be, and all those things will be added unto you, and you'll be there.
Oh, that's
and
inspiring.
We've lived it.
I'm so glad to hear you video. I was going to be, as soon as you started to tell this story, I'm so glad you got it captured on video. Is there a place to watch this? Is this coming?
Yeah, it's on our website.
Oh, I missed it. I was all over your website. How did I miss that one? Anyway, but and how long is that? If you had quite a few stories, did you?
Well, the videos are anywhere from 30 seconds.
Okay, so they're shorts. Okay,
yeah.
got it. All right, they're not put together in one. That's good. All right, well, I'll have to take a look at that. That's really inspiring.
Yeah, there is a video that's a compilation of family members, and but there's also the individual ones.
Right, that's fantastic. Wow, how inspiring is that? The only 7 seconds. Did I get that right? Is that what it's called? Is that something you created, or you sponsor? You help?
No, we're a major sponsor of it.
Oh, that's fantastic. Yeah, that is very important right now. It's such an epidemic on suicide. So, well, we talked a bit about these new varieties, the proprietary. Tell us a little bit how new varieties come about in apples. I think this is a fascinating story. We've touched on it a bit, but I'd really love to hear from someone who really experiences.
Yeah, so it's breeding programs both within nurseries and within our own. So I'll tell you about Rocket, Arondo Ruby, and Sugar Bee. So Arondo Ruby, one of our growers, Marcus Griggs, he's a high-end, really high quality grower. I mean, this guy's really dialed into his orchards, and he had Rainier cherries. He noticed one year 3 branches or 3 limbs off a Rainier tree that had cherries that matured earlier and had more color on the cherries. So he flagged them, and he started watching those over the years. He eventually took the wood to a science lab and found out that the DNA in the wood was actually different than the Rainier cherry. So he had to legally name it something else if he wanted to market that cherry. This was like 15 years ago. And so through those 3 branches off a tree came the whole entire Arondo Ruby cherry.
Wow.
So it's just a chance to, I mean, I don't know, nature just pumped that out. And so that's how that came along.
Right.
I think they call that a sport, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So anyway, the Rocket apple was in a breeding program in New Zealand, and there was a bunch of growers that looked at it. They all walked away from it because they thought it was too small and no one would eat it. One guy named Phil Allison decided to buy the rights to it. And then he met with us over in Berlin, Germany at a Fruit Logistica conference in February years ago, shared it with us and said, we want to buy the rights to the North America market. So we have the rights to market it in North America, United States, Canada and Mexico. So we do that, and we can export it. So the Gevers, along with the Bortons, have quite a few acres planted of the Rocket apple. And so we have that proprietary variety, and we're doing that.
I bought a 3-pound tub yesterday, and I love them. I love that good size. I don't know that you're intentionally targeted kids, maybe, but it seems perfect for kids, lunchboxes, and that kind of thing. But I like it too because
it's perfect for everybody. People thought it would just be kids, but a lot of people don't want to eat a whole size apple, right?
Normally,
they just want a little snack. And I meet people at trade shows all the time say, I got diabetes and I really can't eat a whole apple, and I don't want to cut it, put it back in the fridge. So they go, a Rocket's perfect. And if I want more, they go, I just eat 2.
Well, one of the questions I had for you is that my suspicion when I first saw them was it was just the smaller graded out smaller of another variety. But you're saying that's
most
actually
of the time that's the case.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, that if you see that size apple in a gala, is it going to taste as good as a bigger gala? Probably not.
Yeah, that's true. But the Rocket is its own variety.
Yeah, it's not. It doesn't get big as they get.
Oh, wow. That's
fantastic. As big as they get. So when you see them on a tree, they look like a plum tree.
Okay. Yeah. Right. Like crab apples. Well,
with
much better flavor.
Apples is what they look like.
Much better flavor. So that's great. Well, this has been fantastic. What else do you want to tell our listeners about Joyfully Grown or Chelan?
I guess the one thing I meet a lot of people who think that organic apples are just not sprayed with anything. And that's not true. Right. But, organic apples are sprayed with organic pesticides, conventional sprayed with conventional. And people say, well, why do you grow both? I said, because people have a choice, and they're equally nutritious for you. We have very rigorous pest management programs, meaning we don't just spray to be spraying. It's very expensive to apply pesticides. So we have very extensive trapping processes. And there's some years we might apply pesticides only twice a year. Sometimes you got to go 4. It depends on the winter that you had. But I think that main thing I just want customers to know is the apples, the fruit out of Washington is about as good a quality and safe to eat as anything you'll find on the planet. I'm really proud of our whole industry, because even my competitors are the most incredible growers and stewards of the land. My competitors and I will get together at meetings and we'll just kind of laugh at how these third-party people want to come in and see what we're doing and all that. And it's like, guys, we've been cleaning our own house for 100 years. Yeah. We don't need you to come tell us to clean it. We don't need you to come tell us to love our children, our fruit. We live here. right? Grady Oval was 94 years old and healthy as a horse when he just suddenly died. My uncle was 84 when he died, only because he fell off a caterpillar trying to build a fire line to save some people's homes during a wildfire.
Wow.
Laying in the hospital bed, he looked like a 50-year-old.
Man.
And so, we have a healthy, good lifestyle up here. This isn't some kind of poison factory where we're just, it's very, I just think people hear things, like the Dirty Dozen, and it's like.
Yeah, we took them on. We had a whole episode dedicated to that.
Yeah.
We had a specialist who goes after that environmental working group every year when they come out with that. And
so I guess at the end of the day, I'm really proud that I don't have to apologize for anything we do, anything we sell. We don't have to hide anything. We are a glass house.
Right. And like you said, you guys depend on that land. You've had it in generation after generation. Of course, you're going to take care of it and make sure that it's going to be sustainable for many more generations.
Yeah, it's in our own best interest.
Yeah, congratulations to you. This has really been inspiring. I appreciate you taking the time and joining us.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Yeah. So, well, we could go on and on. We do usually. Sometimes we go on for hours, but I know you got work to do. So now Teresa's got some questions, or
were we going to do
she's got a pun.
Okay, one of the fun things we do in each episode, Mac, is Teresa loves puns, and she always wants to tell a pun in the episode. We have this segment every episode called Home Grown.
So we apologize in advance.
You get why it's called homegrown, because the puns are always bad. So we don't laugh at them. We groan. So Teresa's got one for you today. We're going to listen to it. Oftentimes it's a question and we try to guess the answer. But then once we get the answer, we groan. So, okay, Teresa, what is the homegrown of the day?
Well, Mr. Apple received an invitation to join the Insider Club. Why didn't Mrs. Apple want him to join?
Okay, now let's give some thought to this. So Mr. Apple received an invitation to join the Insider Club. Why did Mrs. Apple not want to join? Any guesses from our produce buzzers?
She was rotten to the core.
I was going to say she didn't want it to turn brown, him to turn brown.
Mac, any guesses?
Man, I guess she didn't want to be left on the outside. I don't know.
Nicely done. Yes,
good.
well done. Yes.
Okay, Teresa, come on and pun-ish us now with your pun.
Okay, she didn't want him to join the Insider Club.
Oh,
she was afraid he would get juiced.
Oh, we're laughing. No, we're supposed to grow.
Yeah, I like it.
Oh, you guys must make cider, huh?
No,
cider?
We don't make it, but we actually have a company we work with in California that makes the sugar bee cider and applesauce for us.
Oh, fantastic! Oh, so you have that brand as a cider.
Yeah, you can find it at Costco right now. The sugar bee cider.
I'll look for that.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
We made a lot of cider in our days, Rick and I. As I said, my dad grew apples, and he packed them, and he packed the apples for this Western North Carolina. I don't know if you've ever how much you know about it, but it's quite a. They grow a lot of apples here.
We grow apples too in North Carolina. That's what I hear you saying.
Yeah, no, well, I won't go into it, but Washington State kind of affected our business. When we were growing up before controlled atmosphere storages, we had about a 3-week window because our apples came in earlier, and that before controlled atmosphere. But the apples that were left over by them were mushy. So people were eager to get the fresh crop, crisp apples. We had about a 3-week window where we could make our best profit, because North Carolina was the first state really in any volume to come in that early August. Then when controlled atmosphere storages came in, you guys got them. We didn't get it. And that kind of put it into that. But that's the way things go. We're not angry. But we grew a lot of apples. We made a lot of cider. My older brother, who is no longer with us, unfortunately, he was in charge of making the cider, and he had a blend. He would blend 5 or 6 different varieties, and oh man, that would come. And we only sold it fresh. Yeah, we only sold it fresh. We never pasteurized it.
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't get it.
That's a good memory.
It was fantastic.
He learned that recipe from North Carolina State, where he graduated with a degree in agriculture and horticulture.
Yeah,
and that's how we got started making that. Was the professor there in the horticulture department was from upstate New York, and he did it for a fundraiser. He would buy apples from us in the mountains to bring down to Raleigh, and he would make the fresh cider and sell it on campus for a fundraiser. And so we actually stole his recipe when we started making it ourselves.
Yeah. And
1/4 Stamen wine sap, 1/4 Golden Delicious, 1/4 Roman apple, and I'm trying to remember
probably Red Delicious because it was such a volume.
I think we did use red. Yeah.
Right.
Was that about the same time y'all were doing moonshine too?
Yeah.
Well, we never made any hard cider because it wasn't legal to make in our county at the time.
Well, I don't think moonshine was illegal to make either.
I sold a lot of hard cider because we put it in plastic milk jugs, and when it starts to turn, even in the cooler, it starts to turn.
Right.
Swelling up. We take the stuff that wasn't good like that and put it out behind the fruit stand, and the sun would come and work it really good, and it would actually get almost like a champagne taste. And once in a while, a person would come in and say, "Have you got any of that cider that has a kick to it?" I would say, "Sure, come around behind here. I'll show you." And I'd take a sample cup and I'd pour them a sample cup of it, and they would taste it and they go, "Wow, that is really good. How much is that?" I said, "We just sell it for the same price as the other. Give me 3 gallons."
I can imagine.
I tried to make it look like I was doing something illegal, but it was probably only 1 or 2% alcohol at the most.
Yeah. And Rick and I started about 6 years old too in the packing house. I started putting together boxes, I think Rick did that too. We would staple the cardboard boxes for the apples. That was our first job. So it wasn't quite as hard as hauling sprinklers up down a hillside though. Well, Mac, we're going to let you go this time.
Okay.
We kept you a little bit longer.
Thank
you so much. This is fantastic.
You guys have a nice weekend.
Thank you. You too, Mac.
Thanks luck. A lot, Mac.
Bye-bye. Well, thank you, listeners, for tuning in to the Produce Buzzers podcast, brought to you by Produce Buzz, the gathering place for lovers of fresh fruits and veggies. We hope you were entertained a bit and educated a lot about fresh produce. Be sure to join us next time, and please tell your friends to do so as well. Like, share, and comment on our Produce Buzz Facebook page, and check out our website at www.producebuzz.com. There you will find articles about fresh fruits and veggies, how to select, store, and prepare them, as well as lots of interesting facts about all the wonderful bounty the earth provides for us. Until next time, be fruitful and don't forget to veg out.